Hello everyone, my name is Reed and welcome to Storytime. Today we are going to be reading some malicious compliance stories, so sit back, relax, and enjoy. Dogs don't follow quiet hours. In my junior year of college, I lived in a 24-hour quiet hours on campus apartment. The rules meant any noise at all could be complained about, and 3 complaints and you were evicted. Realistically, it meant if you stopped the party by midnight, nobody really cared. My roommates and I lived in the last apartment, so I only had the one apartment upstairs as neighbors, and I was next to the road. We didn't complain about their noise and they didn't complain about us. Really me, since my roommates were never there. Until finals week. After the first day of finals, I turned on some music to chill. About 20 minutes later, I heard a knock on the door. It was the resident assistant, RA, whose job it is to enforce the rules. He told me there was a complaint about loud music. We went back and forth for a bit because I was the only one there and he couldn't even hear my music at the door. The RA did say he could hear it a bit as he walked up because my window was open, and so we walked outside and found out that yes, you could hear it outside, and it looked like the upstairs neighbor's window was open too. After that, he left to talk to the complainer upstairs, and then came back saying that she held to the complaint and that if I get 2 more, I'll be evicted. After he left, I went upstairs to talk, but my neighbor wouldn't open the door. She just yelled through it that I should know better in 24-hour quiet hour housing and to follow the rules and make no noise or she'll complain again. Fine. I turned off my music and waited for her to leave. Around dinner time, I heard her leave. Within 10 minutes, I heard what I was waiting for, so I called the RA to complain about an intermittent loud noise from upstairs that's making it hard to study. The RA asked if I was just complaining in retaliation and that we should work it out without his involvement. I told him I tried, but she told me it's 24-hour quiet hours. I offered that if they came and he felt my complaint was not legitimate, I wouldn't say anything for the rest of finals week. He came and knocked on her door. I could tell when he did so because her dog went crazy. The RA came down and told me it was a legitimate complaint and dogs are not allowed. He then asked when the dog got there, saying it was stupid of her to bring one overnight and after she complained about her neighbor's noise. My response: October. He just looked at me for about 20 seconds like I had 2 heads. Finally, I continued that yes, he heard me right, that she'd been keeping the dog there for 2 months and I hadn't complained even though it barked like crazy when she wasn't there. He had to go to the campus housing authority and they ultimately told her she couldn't finish out her finals on campus if she didn't immediately remove the dog, but she would need to find alternative housing next semester for violating rules regarding animals on campus. 2 mornings later, a dog's barking woke me up, so I called the RA to complain. That night, the RAs helped her pack up her stuff and she had to stay in a hotel for the rest of finals. Oh, come on, roommate. This is like basic stuff right here. You should know that if you're breaking the rules, you can't complain about someone else breaking the rules. It just don't work like that. As you wish. A while back, I was renting a place when a new, also rental, neighbor moved in next door. They then proceeded to throw a mini person party well into the night, 10 feet away from my rental-thin trademark bedroom wall. Eventually, I went around and got them to turn the noise off. A week later, they did it again, waking me up this time, and I was around there again. Some days later, the new neighbor was on my doorstep ranting at me for daring to tell her what to do and told me I wasn't allowed on her property again. Fine, as you wish. I shall not set foot on that property again. So I did some research. I found the old ad for her rental and contracted her real estate agent for advice. I walked into the local police station and got their advice. On the combined advice, I contacted the local town council and got even more advice. All of this advice basically came down to, if it happens again, call the council, the agent, or the police. And naturally, I wouldn't want to get Miss Noiseworks in any kind of legal trouble, would I now? So of course I would be trying to report in roughly that order of preference. Predictably, the neighbor, having decided that I had been put in my place, threw yet another into the morning party. And true to the advice I had been given, I called the council, who for some reason didn't pick up the phone at 3 a.m., neither did the agent, and, if I hadn't been allowed to go knock on her door, I would have, but she'd taken that possibility off the table, so on to the last option. After the cops had been called out to break up her violations of the local noise ordinance regulations a further 6 times on separate occasions, and all the details forwarded on to the agent and council each time, things got very quiet for a few weeks. Then, one day shortly after, I had the lovely experience of having one of the officers come to my door and ask if I knew anything about a homeless guy who had been squatting in that very same house. Because the former tenant had been evicted. Something about noise violations. And honestly, the squatting homeless guy was so quiet I never even knew he was there. A++ would recommend as a neighbor. Now, this is kind of different from the last story we read where the person was doing something bad and then they snitched on someone from doing bad and got themselves in trouble. This homeless guy was being quiet, not calling attention to himself. So, homeless guy, I applaud you. You're doing it right. I know what's appropriate for my kids. Thanks. So this was in 2013, back when I was working at a movie theater in my town. Right after Wolf of Wall Street came out, and this movie brought in a crowd. Theaters were sold out and packed. Known for its not-so-kid-friendly scenes and was a little too much for most people. Now, working at a movie theater, you can usually just tell after a while what people know what they want and what people think they know what they want, but have no idea what they're getting into. For example, those people came in to watch Leo because they love him and will watch whatever he is in, without realizing how highly inappropriate the movie is. Normally, mothers coming in to buy their teenagers tickets before bouncing thinking it was a Titanic movie, and it's not. Literally, I watched so many people come out 30 minutes in and leave, stating how disgusting that movie was. We were told to warn people, especially just Leo fans, not knowing what they were getting into because people were getting mad and freaking out. So, when Karen sporting a Jesus self-made bedazzled t-shirt, "Can I speak to your manager" haircut, and cross jewelry came in, with one 9-year-old and one 11-year-old came for a ticket, it was too obvious she did not know what she was in for. 3 tickets to Wolf of Wall Street. Karen started rummaging through her bag for her wallet. Okay, but just so you know, it's not kid-friendly, it's R-rated, like really, really R-rated. I started as she looked up. I whispered enough for her to hear and not the kids. It has a scene 30 minutes in which someone does cocaine off. My kids love Leo, okay? It's my 9-year-old's birthday, and all she wanted was to see this movie. I know it's appropriate for my kids. Thanks, Karen scoffed. Cue my malicious compliance. Okay, just 3 tickets? I beamed and sold her the tickets. She was rude and rolling her eyes, smacking her gum till I gave her the tickets. She snatched them out of my hand in satisfaction, giving me a victorious smirk before walking towards the theater. I just waved goodbye. After about 30 minutes after it started, I called my manager out from the office for a refund. He was confused, but I explained why. We waited for the scene, that amazing scene that was too much for almost everyone. Almost on cue, I see Karen and her children coming out of the theater. She is quiet as her kids are quickly following after her, begging for her forgiveness in panic and tears, screaming, "We didn't know!" Karen is emotionless as she walks up slowly and defeated to my ticket booth. In tears. Tears were just sliding down her cheeks as her kids sobbed and begged for her not to be mad. She couldn't look at me as Karen swallowed and choked out with a shaky breath. "Can I get a refund?" Karen sniffed as my boss did the refund. "And the reason for the refund?" my manager asked Karen, swallowed, embarrassed, unable to look at me. "It's not kid-friendly." So, I used to work in a movie theater once upon a time, and I never really had any moments like this. Hardly any refunds, and definitely no one having tears like that. Now, I wasn't there during some of the crazy stuff, like obviously Wolf of Wall Street. But still, you'd think I would have experienced something like this. But I did live at a pretty raunchy and crazy place at the time, so maybe that's why? Can't transfer until my numbers are green? You got it. Before I moved into this department in my company, I worked as a printer/copier technician. My main territory was a local hospital that I spent 95% of my time at. A position opened up in our IT department, and I decided to apply for it. Copier manager wasn't pleased because I did end up getting the position, and he had to replace me with 3 people. That's besides the point. With a hospital as my main territory, I did things a little differently. I had 600 machines in the building and would visit 10 or so a day as the customer called it in. I spent lots of money trying to keep these machines running correctly, so some of my stats didn't look so good. Also, if I fixed something and the customer called in about a different problem on the same machine, I got dinged again. Of the 8 stats we were tracked on, half of mine were bad, aka red. My copier boss knew I was a good tech, but also knew that I had gotten the job in IT and that I couldn't even think about the IT job until all my numbers were green. It took 4 months for the internal transfers to happen, and it was me that made it happen. New IT boss called me and asked me what was taking so long and told him what the copier boss said, and he said, "I'll take care of it." IT boss basically went into the stats board and changed a line of code to say, if OP, then green stats. Updated the board and went down to the copier boss, and I was transferred. After a couple of days later, he caught me in the hall and told me he didn't appreciate what I had done, and I had to tell him that I had nothing to do with it. Bring it up to the IT boss, the CIO. Yeah, this is a good example of mindless company metrics that don't even matter. There's a couple at my current place of work, and it sucks. Oh well, maybe we'll get past these stupid things one day. Sure, I'll do my job. So I have worked at a large manufacturing plant for the past 5 years, and this year we are shutting down. Like, tear it to the ground, shutting down. I have truly loved this job and have worked for the best boss one could ask for. It's a great job with great pay. I work in the group that, in part, is responsible for regulatory compliance. On a day-to-day basis, we have a lot of responsibilities that ensure the plant runs smooth and complies with environmental laws. This means that my group is needed until the very end, so we have all been given roll-off dates 9 months from now. If we stay till the end, we get a nice severance package. Definitely worth sticking around for. My boss, however, has been deemed non-essential, so they were let go a month ago. The majority of my duties were in future planning and plant improvements. With the plant shutting down, 99% of my projects have or will be canceled. My group is needed, but I am most certainly not needed. I like to work hard and pride myself in the quality and effectiveness of the projects I complete. I do not like to just sit around. My days have ground to a halt, and I am incredibly bored. While my previous boss was universally loved, the new boss is the complete opposite. He is one of those good old boys who always has the right answer and hates to be questioned. To be fair, he is probably in over his head. A couple of weeks after my old boss was let go, I go talk to my new boss. Me. Hey boss, got a minute? New boss. Yeah, but make it quick. I have been thinking, since most of my work was in future planning and development, I was wondering if we could talk to HR about moving my roll-off date closer, so I could still get the severance. You're part of the regulatory group, right? You are needed till the end. Yes, but my job... You are part of the regulatory group? Just do your job. I even went to talk to HR, but they will not okay anything without the new boss's approval. So now, I am just doing my job. That consists of taking out the trash. That's it. Granted, it's hazardous material, but anyone could do it. It takes roughly 30 minutes a day, so I have signed up for some online classes, am learning how to speak another language, and getting in some backlogged video games. Any suggestions on how to fill the next 9 months? Whoa. How are they gonna fire OP's boss because he's non-essential, and then hire someone else on to be the boss for 9 months? That doesn't really make any sense to me at all. Alrighty, that's all the stories we have for today. If you liked what you heard, subscribe for more content like this daily. Until next time, goodbye.